Taylor, get out of the shot. This is my moment. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I know it has been a few months, but we're back at it with some upgraded bookshelf arrangements, as you can see here. Today we are going to be doing the mid-year book tag, which I'm really excited to do because I haven't updated you guys in a while about what I've been reading, but I have been reading some really great stuff in the past few months and just this first half of the year overall. So I'm excited to share with you guys. I actually got the idea for this video from bestie Sarah here on BookTube, so I will link her channel down below, but if you're watching my video you probably already know who she is. Anyway, I will be addressing some questions such as what books made me cry so far this year, how many 5 stars have I gotten so far this year, my new favorite authors, things like that. So stick around if you want to hear the answers to those questions, and of course, as always, let me know down below what you have been reading and if you have any opinions about the books that I'm discussing in my video. So without further ado, let's just get into it. So the first question that I want to answer is, what is the best sequel that I have read so far this year? And by and large, the best sequel that I have read this year is Rebel Witch. I always get the name of the duology mixed up, but I think the duology is called Crimson Moth. Rebel Witch is the sequel to Heartless Hunter, which I think I did a whole video discussing this duology. I definitely did, but this one really stuck with me. Both of the books for me were 4.5 stars, and I really enjoyed this. The duology is about Rune, who's a witch, and Gideon, who's a witch hunter, and it's romantasy, so I'll just let you make your inferences. So as I talked about in my video breaking down this duology, there were some parts of this that were really predictable, but overall I just loved getting to spend time with Rune and Gideon again. Overall, I really recommend this duology. I just love duologies in general because if you don't have a ton of time to read through a whole series, you just have 2 books, and I think that this book definitely wrapped up the storyline really well. So the next question we have is, what new release have you not read yet but want to read? So this one for me is Rewind It Back by Liz Tomforde, and this is Rio's story from the Windy City series. But I have heard from some friends that have read Rewind It Back say that I need to read all of the other books in this series to be able to really appreciate Rio's story, because he pops up in all the other books, I believe. I have read Caught Up, I believe, and Play Along. Play Along was just, I love that book. What other one have I read? I think I've just read those 2, but I have not heard great things about Mile High, which is why I've been putting it off. I also started The Right Move and I never finished it. So let me know in the comments if it's worth finishing and if you think that I should indeed read the other books in the Windy City series before I read Rewind It Back, because what I've seen of Rio so far I really like, so I would like to read Rewind It Back and I just want to be in on the hype, but I just don't know if it's worth it to read the rest of the Windy City series. So let me know what you think. The next question in this tag is most anticipated release for the second half of the year, and I sat and really thought about this. I even read through Goodreads 2025 most anticipated releases, and I couldn't even really find anything that I personally was looking forward to. So I'm just gonna open this up to the audience. Let me know if there's anything that I should keep my eye out for the rest of the year. So the next question is biggest surprise of the year. So I'm going to answer this question the way that I saw Sarah answer it, and that is, what is a good surprise that you got this year, and then what's a more negative surprise that you got this year. So to start on a positive note, my most surprising read so far this year, or I guess like most surprising opinion on a book that I had this year, was the Magnolia Park series, and I fear that I'm going to be referencing this series a lot during this video because I just recently fell in love with these books, which was a major surprise to me because from what I heard of it, it's about very toxic relationships, which it is. And so I'm usually not into reading about toxic things. I just get so frustrated. But these books have not been frustrating to me. Yes, they've been sad and moments of them have made me angry, but not angry at the writing, like not angry at the author, just like frustrated because I'm actually, I hate to say it, but rooting for the couple that I'm reading about, or just rooting for them as people. But that was a huge surprise for me. I know that the Magnolia Park series is hit or miss and it's not for everybody, but I did find that it was for me. So you can see that series right here. I even have a little deer stuffy because if you know, you know. It just goes with the theme of Magnolia Parks. But I don't want to mess up the cute little display I have of it here, so I'll just be pointing to that when I reference it. But that's definitely my best surprise of the year so far. And then for the negative surprise that I had this year, I fear that we have Miss Wicked here. And this is by Gregory Maguire. So of course the musical Wicked has taken the world by storm, and so I just wanted to get in on the hype. So I of course watched the screen adaptation of the musical with Ariana Grande, of course, and then my best friend Allie and I decided we were gonna buddy read Wicked, which I was very excited about. But unfortunately, I fear that it took me 8 months to finish this book because it feels like required reading. It felt like I was reading a textbook for class and not in a fun way, and I like to learn, and I just didn't enjoy this at all. I actually did give this a 2-star rating. And I don't know if it's just because I'm usually not into fantasy, but this was just so confusing. I feel like I need to go on SparkNotes to even understand a sentence of this. The only thing that made it even be 2 stars for me rather than 1 star was that the last, I don't know, I want to say 30-ish% or maybe 40, I listened to it on audio, and I actually really enjoyed the audiobook version on Spotify Premium. So if you are in the same boat as me and you are trying to get through Wicked, please do yourself a favor and listen to it on audio, because, and I also listened to it on 2x speed. I fear that it would be unbearable if I listened to it on 1x speed, but that's my stance about any audiobook. Anyway, I think the audiobook saved this for me. Also, Dorothy comes into play during the last 40% of the book, which made it more exciting to me because, of course, like everyone, I watched The Wizard of Oz, so that made it more enjoyable when I could kind of understand what was going on, obviously. But I digress. That was my most negative surprise of the year so far. So the next question is, who is my newest favorite author? And that would be Mrs. Jessa Hastings. Of course, like I said, I'll be referencing this series a lot, but I just fell in love with Jessa Hastings' writing. And I think that's really why I love the Magnolia Park series. It's just not really so much as the content, but just the writing. Like, I have never tabbed books so much or highlighted in books as much as I did when I was reading the Magnolia Parks books, and I'm really intrigued to read some of her other work beyond that. Like, I know she just came out with The Conditions of Will, so I will be picking that up. And then also Kennedy Ryan. I just read the Skyland series and I loved her writing too. And I just love the content in those books, how she brings in some social justice issues and things like that. And in the last book, Hendrix's story, Can't Get Enough. Is that what it's called? I think. I listened to her author's note at the end and just kind of how she was defending romance as a genre and saying why can't she add serious issues into her books? It's not just romance. The romance genre can be a form of activism too and bring awareness to issues that are going on. So I really appreciated that. And she's obviously a wildly intelligent person. So I just really like her writing style and I'm interested to read more from her. The next question is your newest fictional crush. So, sorry babe, but Beau from Out on a Limb is one of my newest fictional crushes. I don't want to give any spoilers away, but I just love how mature Beau was and the way that he just jumped right in to help win and be there for her, but not force romance onto her, but just to be an acts of service person, just to be super supportive and also just being very clear about his feelings. And that, as you'll see as I talk about my other new fictional crushes, is a theme that I just love to see in characters, is just when they're able to communicate well, especially in romance. One of my biggest pet peeves with romance books is the miscommunication trope, because I'm just if we're adults here and we're seeking out a relationship, which in this book that's not the case, but I digress. I just love to see a character that is mature and can communicate with his or her partner very well, and Beau does that, so I just love him. And then my other new fictional crushes are the men from the Skyland series. So Josiah, Judah, and Maverick. So in each of their respective books, they go through some really hard life circumstances, but they still end up taking the time to process their emotions and then clearly communicate with the women in their lives. Josiah takes him a minute to get there, but Judah and Maverick, just like throughout the whole book, I just love how communicative and confident and self-assured that they were. If I had to pick a favorite, it'd probably be Maverick, because again, throughout the whole book, I just feel like he was just a rock for Hendrix and just really valued her. I just feel like he is a model book boyfriend for sure. Next, we have a book that made you cry. So pause this video and comment down below if you can guess what book or books, hint hint, I'm going to be mentioning. And that would be none other than the Magnolia Park series. And I have not even finished Into the Dark because I don't think that I'm emotionally ready for that. So I have only read the first 4 books. What, has it been 4 books already? Oh my gosh. Yeah, I guess it has. The first 4 books. And I will say the Magnolia Park storyline more than the Daisy Hate storyline, I think I connect to a little bit more. Like, I feel like slightly more emotionally invested. That being said, Daisy Hates the Great Undoing, I could not stop thinking about that book for days afterwards. Like, I feel like I was up at night thinking about it, and I was definitely on the verge of tears when I was reading the last part of that book. And then of course Magnolia Parks, and then The Long Way Home. At the end of both, I was just emotionally shattered. So yeah, go check them out. But no, seriously, they're very heavy, and so definitely stirred up a lot of emotions in me, good and bad, but a lot of the times sad. And again, I just feel like for my own mental health, I cannot read Into the Dark yet. So again, let me know down below if you think that it's wise for me to hold off on reading Into the Dark, or should I just go into it and rip the band-aid off? I'm not sure yet. Another book that made me cry this year was Catching Fire, which I did a reread of the Hunger Games series. I reread The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. That's a tongue twister to me, but I haven't reread that one yet. But I did reread The Hunger Games, Catching Fire, Mockingjay, and then of course I read Sunrise on the Reaping. But this one was the tearjerker for me. Enough said. If you know, you know. Now we have what is a book that made you happy this year. I had to go with Love of My Afterlife, and I think this was my first, yes, this was my first 5-star of the year. And I am low-key mad at myself that I waited this long to pick it up and read it, but as we have discussed in my previous couple videos, I think my husband finally bought it for me, and I just loved it and I ate it up, and so it made me really happy. I feel like I was giggling and kicking my feet a couple times throughout this book, and I just loved the way that it ended. I was happy all throughout. Like, reading the quotes that I tabbed in this book still make me smile to this day, so I would definitely have to pick this one. Next, we have what is the most beautiful book that you have bought this year. And again, we have the Magnolia Park series. I painstakingly searched out the UK versions of these books because I just feel like the shoe covers just don't match up. I view these as like my trophies now. I love these covers, so I'm so glad that I own them. Next, we have what books do you want to have read by the end of the year? So I have my little 2025 TBR with me. I think I have this on my Instagram, Reading with Versa, if you want to check it out. And I also put a template on there. This I made on Canva, so if you want to use my template, I put a blank copy on there. But it looks like I only have 5 more books to go out of the 25 books that I picked out for myself to read this year, but I definitely want to get those 5 read. The reason that I haven't read them yet is because I feel like they're just more fall wintry vibes, so I want to save it for that. But that's The Ministry of Time, 6 of Crows, The Ballad of Never After, Rebecca, and then Scythe. So Scythe, I picked this one up earlier in the year and I just wasn't feeling it at the time. So let me know if I should actually read that one. And then 6 of Crows and The Ballad of Never After, I definitely want to read because I loved Once Upon a Broken Heart. Rebecca I want to read, but I'm kind of nervous about that because I've been out of the classic reading mode for a while. So and then The Ministry of Time, I've heard great things about that one, so I'll definitely be getting to that one. Next we have how many 5 stars have you had so far this year, and I have had 8, which is crazy because I have gotten a lot more picky on my ratings this year than I ever have before. So 8 it seems like a lot, but it's really not a lot compared to last year for me. So I feel like these books are all really special because I have been getting pickier and pickier about my book taste. So those books are The Hunger Games, Catching Fire, Sunrise on the Reaping, Love of My Afterlife, Anxious People by Friedrich Bachmann, I love that one. Then Magnolia Park's The Long Way Home, and Daisy Hates The Great Undoing. Daisy Hates, the first one, wasn't quite a 5-star for me, even though I did love that one. Next we have what books do you want to reread this year? So I've already done a couple rereadings this year that I was really excited about, like The Hunger Games, and then I also reread Funny Story by Emily Henry, and I have my Emily Henry display right here. Hopefully you can see that, but those are the books that I really want to accomplish rereading this year, are the Emily Henry books, which, like I said, I already reread Funny Story this year, which I really enjoyed my rereading, but I'm trying to nail down my ranking of Emily Henry books. I don't know why, just for fun, but I did read Great Big Beautiful Life and I enjoyed that one. So I am in the middle of my reread of Beach Read and I'm really enjoying that. And then we have Happy Place I want to reread, and then People We Meet on Vacation I want to reread. I love all of her books, but I really think it would be fun to do a video on my ranking of them and kind of just talk more in depth about them, so I want to accomplish that this year. Another book that I want to reread this year is Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. I listened to this one on audio. I read a little bit of the physical copy, but mainly I just listened to it. So I would love to just reread it and actually make annotations in it because this was so cute and it made me so happy. I read this book last year and this was one book that made me really happy. So I want to reread it and make annotations, even though I really enjoyed the audiobook version, so much so that I bought a physical copy, which I often don't do, but that's another reread that I want to do this year. So next we have a book that you loved that had controversial or mixed reviews. So for me, that was Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry. I watched a few videos on this and I know that some people were disappointed by this and didn't like it as much as Emily Henry's other work, and some people really loved it. Now I personally fell in the camp of people that loved it. I rated it 4.5 stars. And I know one critique that a lot of people had was that they were not invested in like the past storyline and they didn't feel it was necessary to go into Margaret's like family lineage and go way far back like they did, and that it was just anticlimactic, which I personally at first I felt like it was a little slow at first, which is why I didn't give it 5 stars. But as the story progressed, I became more and more invested in learning about the backstory of Margaret, and I ended up finding it fascinating, so much so that I cared about the backstory just as much as I cared about the romance going on. I do understand the critique that Hayden doesn't have a lot of personality, but I ended up loving him by the end. And I really loved Alice and I love the atmosphere. I feel like I just really enjoyed the story. Now, is this my favorite Emily Henry book? Definitely not, but I feel like I personally really enjoyed it. And finally, the last question is, what are your 5-star predictions for the rest of the year? So my 5-star prediction for the rest of the year is Into the Dark by Jessa Hastings, of course. So another reason I'm putting off reading Into the Dark is because I fear that I'm gonna have a book hangover after I finish that book, and that I am just going to be craving more and more from that storyline. I know that Jessa Hastings has other work published, but I am just so scared that I'm gonna miss those characters so much that I am just going to go into a book slump and not want to read anything else, because that's pretty much what happened to me after I read Daisy Hates the Great Undoing. I just really did not want to pick up another book and kind of had to force myself into it. So I'm trying to savor it and not rush into reading it, because I think that it is going to wreck me and that it is going to be a 5-star, because usually when books are super emotional, I do give them a 5-star, because I just think it's crazy how words on paper can just stir up your emotions and make you feel so connected to the characters, to the point of it feels like they're real people, which that series definitely does for me. So that is my 5-star prediction for the rest of the year. So that brings us to the end of this video. Please let me know down below answers to my various questions, such as what other books should I read this year? What should I be anticipating for the rest of the year? Do you have any recommendations for me that you think I would rate 5 stars? And also just what books are you loving and enjoying this year, or what hot takes do you have about books? And let me know what other videos you guys would like to see from me. And if you made it to the end of this video, if you would like it and subscribe, that would mean the world to me. So I will catch you guys on my next video. Bye!